I am a storyteller. Others tell stories to others, while my family tells stories to ghosts. Main characters. Zhang Yufan, Yuan Ji. Keywords of the novel. Yangjien Shuoren. No pop-ups. Download the complete collection of Yangjien Shuoren TXT, and read the latest chapters of Yangjien Shuoren. Chapter 1. Encountering Ghosts While Watching a Play. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. When I was 5 years old, the County Tsui troupe went to the countryside to perform and followed my family to see a play. At that time, I was still young and couldn't understand these things. I just joined in the fun and followed my friends around aimlessly. Until an old man in a big coat appeared on the stage at the end, things started to go wrong at the scene. Everyone said it was cold and went home to add clothes, or the couple huddled together to keep warm. However, I could clearly see that after the old man took the stage, many strange people drifted to the scene. These people also wear different clothes, some wearing qipao, some wearing hanfu, and there are men with big braids. But the only similarity is that these people have pale faces, as if they have applied a layer of flour, but their lips are exceptionally bright. It's like blood. The strangest thing is that the remaining elders still can't see them, and these people don't speak either. They just sit straight there, quietly watching the old man on stage. The old man made everyone burst into laughter, but these people remained silent and did not communicate with each other. I couldn't help but be curious, so I started chatting with a pregnant woman with a big belly next to me. They saw that I looked good and gave me a lot of delicious food, which made me so happy. But I didn't expect to have a stomachache right after the scene ended. I used the restroom more than 10 times a night, and in the end, I couldn't stand up even after pulling. The next day, I started to have a high fever. When I lay in bed, I started talking in my sleep, vomiting and diarrhea. I vomited whatever I ate, and all I pulled was black water. It was so smelly that there was no place to sit on the con. Even my mother, who raised me with a bunch of feces and urine, couldn't bear it anymore and urged my father to go see a village doctor. The barefoot doctors in the past were different from now. At that time, people understood some evil diseases to some extent. Judging from my virtue, they said they couldn't cure it and had to hire experts, otherwise giving anything would be useless. As soon as he heard this, my dad didn't even have time to change his clothes and had to go to the county. But at this moment, the old man in a big coat came yesterday. He said he was a storyteller. He used to tell stories to ghosts, but now he has been recruited by the Tsui troupe, so he tells stories to people. But occasionally, some wandering souls and wild ghosts come to listen to books, but as long as there is no trouble, he is too lazy to take care of it. And last night when he was talking, he saw me talking to a pregnant woman. He was busy performing and didn't pay attention, but when he turned around, he was afraid that something might happen to me, so he came to take a look. Seeing my virtue, the old man pinched his nose and gave me a pulse. He said it wasn't a big deal, he had eaten something from a dead person, and now he's clearing his intestines and clearing his stomach, so I'll die. Then he drew a spiritual talisman for me and burned it into ashes for me to drink. It's strange to say that after drinking the talisman water, I was restless for a while, but surprisingly, I was fine. My mom fed me some rice paste but didn't vomit anymore, and even my body temperature dropped. However, although I was fine, the old man was in trouble. Immediately, a mouthful of blood spurted out, and then with a flip of his eyes, he fainted. The family suddenly became a mess, pinching people and inviting doctors. After the old man woke up, he stared at me intently for a long time without saying a word. My mother arranged a table of food, but the old man didn't eat either. He just stared at me intently, making my back hair furry. The old man pondered for a long time, and finally asked my dad for my bazi. However, halfway through the calculation, blood began to rush out of his nose, one after another, as if he didn't want money. I vividly remember that when the old man was bleeding, his wrinkles and white hair noticeably increased, making him look as if he had aged several years in an instant. After calculating, the old man pounded his chest and cursed loudly, saying that he shouldn't have saved me. The elixir only cures the disease, but I am a damn person. Saving me would be breaking the heavens. Upon hearing these words, my father also panicked and quickly asked what was going on. The old man said that a person born on the 12th day of the 12th month in the year of Renshan, at the moment of ugliness, is destined to not live for 5 years. This is the 4th life of the 4 Rens that is rare in a century, and the slaughter is too heavy. It is the 7 kills of the Star Lord who descended from heaven. If I were to survive, the world would suffer and it would inevitably stir up chaos. And half of the heavy killing generals in ancient times were from my past life. The 7 kills Star Lord. As for the big-bellied ghost, he came to be ordered to seduce the soul. As a result, he didn't investigate carefully and thought it was a little ghost he brought in, which made me unlucky to follow. So he accidentally saved my life. Now by chance, I ate the food of that big-bellied ghost, cleared away the evil energy of the 5 internal organs, belonging to the innate spiritual root. I am a rare storyteller and also the little boy that those dirty things love the most. The old man's words were somewhat frightening, and they also scared my parents a lot. So he quickly asked the old man about his method of cracking. But this old man kicked me out and insisted on talking to my parents alone. When they finished chatting and it was already dark, the old man was busy preparing for the performance and hurriedly left. At night, my parents remained silent all night and didn't go to the show. They stared at each other with big eyes and small eyes all night long. After waiting for 2 days, the 3-day performance in the countryside came to an end. The old man was going back to the county, and my parents asked me to follow him. They said they wanted me to learn art from the old man. From now on, this old man will be my master, equivalent to my own father, and I will take good care of him. My parents even took out all the savings at home and instructed me to take care of myself outside, listen to my master's instructions, and cover my bed at night. After speaking, the old man will pull me onto the car. At the sight of this situation, I became anxious. This statement is as obvious as ever. If we don't see each other, we will never see each other again. What am I doing? I immediately rolled around and started crying on the ground, but the old man didn't pay much attention. He gently pinched the back of my neck, and I fainted. The old man forced me into the car. Before falling into a coma, I saw my mother kneeling in front of the car, crying like a tearful person, saying something wrong to me. I really had no choice but to hope that I didn't hate him and what would happen in the next life. This scene, I will never forget, a lifelong pain. After arriving in the county, I also made a fuss for a while, clamoring to see my mother every day, but the old man didn't get used to me either. Whenever I cried, he would beat me up. The worst time was when even a thin bamboo whip broke it. It's just a common occurrence for people to be penalized for standing, taking the blame, and not allowing food to be eaten if they can't complete tasks on a regular basis. Over time, I also learned to be strong and patient and stopped making trouble. Every day, I followed the old man to learn his 3 great books. The old man is a storyteller, with an inherited skill that has been passed down for generations in his family. But the difference is that others tell stories to people, while their family tells stories to ghosts. According to the old man, when their family was at their best, they used to specialize in preaching to the emperor in the palace, helping the court handle many things and holding a very prominent position. Even if the great shaman of the Qing dynasty met his ancestors, he would politely call out his predecessors, and looking at the world, he was a leading figure. It's just a pity, even a great storyteller cannot withstand the tide of history. When it came to him, only half of the 6 great scriptures passed down from ancestors were left, and all the evil killing, medical skills, and internal skills were lost, leaving only the techniques of physiognomy, destiny, and divination. He, who tells stories to ghosts, has also fallen to the point of telling stories to people. But as the old saying goes, a skinny camel is bigger than a horse. Although storytellers have exited the stage of history, the ancestors of their masters are among the top landlords in Songxian. It is said that at its most glorious time, most of Matsu County was owned by the masters and their families. Although the family is in decline now, it still leaves an antique shop for its master. Apart from performing in the countryside, it usually manages its own shop, but this shop does not do business with living people. Although the master is usually a bit strict, there are also good times when he treats me completely as his own son. After all, the master never married, and I can be considered his only son. For the convenience of studying in the county town, I also changed my name to follow my master's surname and called him Zhang Yufan. Chapter 2. Your Mother Dies. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. As I grew older, my childhood memories gradually began to blur, and many things I couldn't remember. Even my father's appearance began to blur in my memory. But the only thing I can't forget is the way my mother knelt in front of the car before I fell into a coma. At the age of 13, I finally mustered up the courage, risked being beaten to death by my master, stole 20 yuan from him, and got on the bus back home. However, my long-awaited home is gone. The courtyard is overgrown with weeds, and the surrounding walls are on the verge of collapse. At that moment, I almost collapsed and frantically asked everyone in the village, but they said that my parents had already left. A few years ago, both of them died suddenly in the house, and it was the bodies collected by the neighbors. Bang! Upon hearing this news, my brain exploded and I collapsed to the ground. After years of supporting my beliefs, I finally collapsed. I am like a walking corpse, lifeless, and even have the idea of wanting to commit suicide. And just then, the master appeared. The master rarely hit me, but silently took me to the grave of my parents and found someone to dig it up. Looking at the empty two coffins, I was stunned, and the villagers who helped were also stunned. Even the neighbors who buried my parents themselves in the past were dumbfounded. Only my master, calm and composed, seemed to have everything under control. The master said that in fact, my parents did not die, and the so-called sudden death was only planned by him. Because of my extraordinary fate, if I didn't die at the age of 5, this fate would affect my parents. Therefore, they can only pretend to be dead and live in this world with another identity, and only in this way can they avoid this fate. But as for where my parents are, the master is also unclear. I have been following my master for many years, and I am still aware of his abilities. Helping someone pretend to be dead and erase any footprints in the world is simply effortless. At this moment, I firmly believe it. I am also deeply impressed by my master's skills. It was also from this moment that I made up my mind to learn from my master well, because my master had said that only by mastering his family's unique skills to the extreme can I change my fate and find my parents. When I was 18 years old, my master passed on his lifelong knowledge to me, and he also passed away. He came clean, went clean, and didn't take anything with him. He left everything he had for me, including the quota for the county Tsui troupe, as well as this antique shop that does not engage in live human business, and the master only has 2 requests. Firstly, fortune-telling for a girl named Yuanji is best carried by her side to ensure her lifelong safety. Because this is a sin created by my master many years ago, I must repay it. Secondly, let me retrieve the other 3 books of the Storyteller. I don't know who this girl named Yuanji is. She is even more important than retrieving the 3 lost books, making her master a top priority. But my master repeatedly begged me to take good care of this girl, because the only thing he had done wrong in his life was with this girl. If he didn't take good care of her, he would feel uneasy after death. And the master also repeatedly explained that only when this girl appears, can I go and do the second thing, which is to search for the 3 major books. In fact, I am more aware in my heart that the so-called search for the 3 major books is more like my master letting me go and searching for my parents. And after waiting for several years, this person named Yuanji finally appeared. The girl is quite good looking, with skin that surpasses snow, white and delicate, lips like vermilion, eyebrows curved like the moon, ink-stained eyes, and slightly raised corners of the mouth, showing a touch of nobility and elegance. Like a waterfall of green silk scattered behind, a refreshing breeze blew by, and long hair danced in the wind, like a painting roll, beautiful to the extreme. In my early 20s, wearing a blue dress, I couldn't help but lick my lips. It's not that he's driven by lust, but rather this famous brand, he's definitely a wealthy second generation. It's just this palm. I'm a bit confused about what to say. I sucked my teeth on the flower seed, and after thinking about it, since it was the master's instructions, I could only tell the truth. If I smash this sign, I'll smash it. Girl, your mother is dead. Your mother is dead. Your whole family is dead. The girl burst into a frenzy and quickly withdrew her hand. Don't worry, let me tell you slowly. I smiled and grabbed Yuan Ji's right hand back. To look at palmistry, first look at the 5 fingers. People have 5 fingers, each with its own differences. Take your thumb as an example. The upper part is the father, and the lower part is the mother. Miss, your upper part is full and fleshy, while the lower part is weak and weak. Your mother is no longer alive. No. You're talking nonsense. My mom is in good health and can still play golf when she's free. Yuan Ji withdrew her hand again, rubbing against her body with a disdainful expression, and a hint of anger appeared on her face. Indeed, it was said early in the morning that my mother was dead, and I was afraid that someone else would have to lift the table. I smiled politely and said, "Girl, believe me, I have never made a mistake in my life. Besides, not only did your mother pass away, but you were not even raised by your biological parents because your biological mother has already passed away. Your mother is just dead, your whole family is dead. You dare to say anything for 100 yuan? No, 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 you're still raising your parents." Yuan Ji became completely angry and slammed the table, shouting as if she wanted to eat people. I shook my head and smiled bitterly. I have seen everyone in these years, but I am not angry. Miss, your courtyard has shifted to the left, and your left palace is filled with anger. This indicates that your mother died tragically, and your father is wealthy. Although he is not as wealthy as his foster parents. Wow. Yuan Ji picked up my teacup and didn't waste anything, pouring it all on my face. Let you talk nonsense, your mother died tragically, your whole family died tragically, all lying on the street. One bastard, if you keep talking nonsense, I'll smash your shop. The girl was fierce and even tried several times with her mouth bulging, trying to lift my table, but fortunately, my weight was lying here and I stepped on the table leg, which prevented the girl from succeeding. Refund. Yuan Ji lifted the table to no avail and angrily reached out to me. I sucked my teeth and said, "Beauty, you're so rich, you still need this 100 yuan. Upon hearing this, Yuan Ji was instantly furious and said, "No matter how rich I am, I won't give you money, scammer. You're a dead scammer. You're the scammer. You should have been hit by a car when you went out." The girl lost control of her emotions and realized that I was a god. I'm too lazy to argue with her, anyway she will come to me sooner or later. It's impossible to get a refund. According to the rules of our industry, there are 4 taboos and 3 no questions. One of the taboos is that the hexagram does not pay the gold. And as I just said, if I give you a refund, it will be disrespectful to my ancestors' teachings, and I will be punished in the future. Yuan Ji took a deep breath and gritted her teeth in anger as she looked at my face. Okay. I won't refund the money, will I? If you don't refund, I won't give it to my aunt. I'll keep it for you to buy a coffin. After speaking, the girl walked out in anger, but when I remembered her master's last wish, I couldn't help but remind her. Girl, friendly reminder, a woman's middle finger represents herself. Before and after the previous wedding, when you were congested and had a black aura around your fingers, there would be a bloody disaster today. You may be in danger of losing your life within half a month. You can come here to find me then. Ah. I'm so angry, do you dare to curse me? Yuan Ji stopped and pointed at my nose, cursing, dead scammer, wait for me, I'll find someone to depose you. Yes, you'll be deposed soon. After speaking, Yuan Ji angrily left and didn't forget to give me a middle finger. I rolled my eyes, it's really a waste of my time. Good intentions are not worth it. I casually grabbed a yellowed ancient scroll and went to the rocking chair at the door to bask in the sun. I also couldn't figure it out in my heart. What did the master do to this girl? Why did I tell her that I wasn't biological? Do you still want me to take care of her? The problem is, people still don't believe such words, and now the signs are ruined. However, this incident is also interesting. The mother died tragically shortly after her birth, while the father was a wealthy tycoon, but ended up being raised by wealthier foster parents. TSK, the story is probably thought-provoking. Chapter 3. Betting. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After finishing lunch and returning, I greeted the old man selling braised pork not far away, covered my face with a large fan, and then lay on the rocking chair in front of the door, preparing to take a nap. But just then, Yuan Ji walked over with 3 thugs, and from afar, she heard the little girl shouting angrily. That bastard scammer dares to curse my mother and bully me. You'll have to teach him a good lesson later, and add another 1,000 after everything is done. As soon as Yuan Ji spoke, a little thug immediately patted his chest and flattered, gone. Beauty, do you want him to have 1 arm or 1 leg? It's just a matter of 1 sentence. Yuan Ji hesitated slightly, feeling a bit timid. It's my first time doing this kind of thing, isn't it necessary to be so serious? Seeing the cute girl, the little thug couldn't help but laugh and said, no matter how serious it is, you have to say to what extent it has been fought. Our brothers are professional. That's right, our brothers move, no matter who, the lightest one would be missing an arm or a leg. Even if you enter the tiger park, you can pull off its beard. The 3 little thugs boasted and tried their best to please the wealthy father in front of them, showing off their skills. Yuan Ji, after all, was young. Seeing several people being so fierce, she timidly said with a lack of confidence, is it okay to hit him for 100 yuan? He just lied to me for 100 yuan. Sure, you can do anything with as much money as you want. With money, you can do anything. The little thug flattered anxiously, don't say 100 anymore. I'll give you 100 later, hit him 200. The footsteps were getting closer and closer, and the 3 of them were blowing endlessly. I impatiently took down the fan and gave them a glare. I said, Wang Ming, have you been daring to do any unethical things lately? Are you also scamming the little girl's money? Yo! Van Gogh, are you sunbathing here? Seeing me, 3 little thugs ran over with flattery on their faces, pounding their legs and pinching their shoulders. Wang Ming smiled all over his face and said, Van Gogh, let's discuss it. We may have to hit someone in front of your door later. If we see some blood or something, please give us some face and don't talk to our boss later. I was angry and laughed at by this guy. This heartless thing, why don't you ask what kind of business you're doing before taking on business? Are you not afraid of offending people? What does that mean? Wang Ming was momentarily taken aback, feeling something was going on in my words. He quickly covered his forehead with a frightened expression and said, Brother Zhang, my seal hall is black again. Go ahead and play with your eggs, don't bother me here. I impatiently covered the fan and kicked Wang Ming's crotch, who also playfully stepped back. In the eyes of these people, I am simply a divine existence, and I usually rely on me to cover it up and get by now. So as soon as I remembered what I just said, Wang Ming felt a bit uneasy and quickly ran back to Yuan Ji's side. Little beauty, I forgot to ask you earlier. Who are we going to fight? Since seeing me so familiar with these little thugs, Yuan Ji's face has been scorching hot. Who would have thought that the thug he had found would look like a mouse seeing a cat when he saw me? Thinking of what Wang Ming just said, Yuan Ji felt even more resentful and itchy. Stubbornly snorted, "Humph, it's him who deceived me with money, hit him, and get rid of him." Pa. After Yuan Ji finished speaking, Wang Ming was so scared that he slapped his face and his nose blood flowed down. "Damn it, stinky girls, what are you saying? It's against you." Upon hearing the commotion, I sat up straight and threw the fan in my hand at Wang Ming. "Wang Ming, do you think you don't want to hang out in this place? You're fighting now, little girl. Let your boss come see me tomorrow." Wang Ming was trembling with fear for me and said, "Brother Fan, this woman said she wants to hit you, and so are we. Get lost." I gave these three people a glare, and Wang Ming was so scared that he swallowed his saliva. He picked up the fan on the ground and brought it to me. As usual, when he pouts his butt in front of me, I lift his leg and kick him down the stairs. As I watched the three of them flee in despair, I cursed and said, "Grandma, the wicked are all smoking. The little girls are willing to fight, and next time, we'll have to send them in for tea." Although Wang Ming and the others left, Yuan Ji did not leave. She just stood there quietly, looking at me with a resentful expression on her face. Even if it was nosebleed dripping onto her clothes, Yuan Ji didn't even wipe it. I sighed and took out a tissue and walked over. I wiped the girl's nose and said with a bitter smile, "Look, what did I say? There will be a bloody disaster today, don't you believe it? Scammer. You're a big scammer." Yuan Ji clenched her small fist. I rolled my eyes and was a bit speechless. "Sister, what did I lie to you about? Your mother is really dead, and your current parents are not biological parents either." Yuan Ji knocked down my hand and trembled with anger. "You're the adopted son. Your mother just died. You both bullied me. You wait for me. I'm not finished with you. I'll go abroad to hire an assassin and come back and shoot you. Alright, stop pretending to be tough in front of me. I heard everything you said earlier, and also, read fewer novels." I grumbled in anger, "Quite a nice girl. Why do you have to speak so harshly about yourself? Still a killer. If you have the ability to hire assassins, why don't you first find a few security guards? You have to look for those 3 second-rate men like Wang Ming." When I exposed her in person, Yuan Ji's face turned red. She was about to say something, but I grabbed her hand and dragged her into the store. Yuan Ji was startled and said, what are you doing?" "I'm warning you, my dad is Yuan Fusheng, a famous entrepreneur in Song County. If you..." "Alright, stop shouting." I interrupted Yuan Ji, "I really didn't lie to you. You must be in danger of your life within half a month, and only I can save you. Don't ask me why I saved you, because I was entrusted by others to be loyal. Big scammer, I believe you're a ghost. You've even killed my mother. How dare you say I'm an adopted son? How can you make me believe you?" I threw Yuan Ji onto the rocking chair and lit a cigarette on my own. "I know you don't believe it, but as long as you sit here for 2 hours, I can guarantee that you will definitely believe me then," I said. Yuan Ji quieted down and looked at me suspiciously. "Just sit here for 2 hours, and I'll believe you." "Are you sure?" "Okay. What if I still don't believe you?" I patted 100 yuan on the table and said, "If you don't believe me in 2 hours, you can take this 100 yuan. Besides, I'll compensate you 10 times the divination gold and kowtow to apologize." Yuan Ji was slightly taken aback, then her eyes lit up and she said, "Okay. That's what you said. Don't deny it when the time comes. What if you believe it?" I chuckled and looked at her. Yuan Ji chuckled as if she had heard a joke. "How could this be? I would believe you. Ha ha ha, if I believe you, say whatever you want." Looking at Yuan Ji with a chicken thief-like expression on her face, I couldn't help but guess what this girl was thinking. She must have made up her mind, and no matter what happened later, she would grit her teeth and say she didn't believe it. However, cause and effect in the world have already been predetermined, where can she tolerate disobedience? Okay, if you believe me, then become my disciple for half a year, bring me tea and water, pinch my shoulders and beat my legs, how about that? No problem. Yuan Ji almost didn't even think about it before agreeing, as if she had already confirmed that in 2 hours, I would definitely lose. Chapter 4. Character Testing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yuan Ji felt a bit impatient when she saw me either playing with copper coins or looking up at the sky at the door. Dead scammer, you're still putting on airs here. It's been almost half an hour now, nothing happened, isn't it? I smiled and didn't speak. Instead, I took out a piece of white paper and a brush and gave it to her. Next, I want to predict 3 things, and these 3 things will only happen in this room. The first thing starts with you, write a word for me to test. Yuan Ji sneered and grabbed a pen and paper to write, but she didn't know what to write with the pen. After thinking for a while, I finally wrote the word person and muttered, it's just 2 strokes, let me figure it out. Just as he was about to give it to me, he felt it was too simple. After crossing it out, he thought about it and wrote another word for virtue. As soon as I was about to go over and take it, Yuan Ji snatched it back and muttered to herself, no, 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 you're not virtuous. Your character is not good, I'll replace it. As he spoke, he leaned down on the table and remembered, perhaps not thinking of anything good, but ultimately his gaze fell on me. By the way, dead scammer, what's your name? Me. Zhang Yufan. Hee, that's good. I'll just write this character, let's see what you say. Yuan Ji wrote the word Zhang on the paper, but just as she was about to get up, the tissue stuffed into her nose suddenly fell off and rolled around on the paper, dyeing the first 2 words red. A blood clot inside the nose also fell on the top of the character Zhang, staining 1/3 red. Yuan Ji let out a scream and was about to wipe with a white paper, but suddenly stopped. She looked at me with a sinister smile and said, if you don't change it, it's just this word. I want to see what you say. I took it over and looked at it before laughing, sister, the first 2 characters are very knowledgeable. One character is human, and the other character is double. There are a total of 3 people, and these 3 people have been stained red with blood. Therefore, these 3 people have blood shining on their bodies. And although the last character you wrote is Zhang, it is short on the left and long on the right, which is due to the weakness of the bow and the weakness of the human body. And you have blood stained your head. Speak human language. Yuan Ji angrily stuffed toilet paper into her nose, what you said is so convoluted that I don't understand. What if you lie to me later? I couldn't help but laugh, okay, to put it bluntly, 4 people will appear at the entrance of my store soon. 3 of them have injuries, and these injuries were all caused by a 4th person. The 4th person is sick, and as for this person's illness, it should be in their head. Yuan Ji muttered disdainfully, you're just talking nonsense, as if someone will come soon. Besides, if you can't see anyone, just say that someone's brain is sick. If it's not right, let's see how I'll deal with you. What if it's accurate? If it's accurate, Xiaofan, oh my little brother, I came to apologize for your mistake. Before Yuan Ji could finish speaking, Ma Bo's voice came from outside the door. Ma Bo is in his 30s, with a stubble on his face. He is a loyal fan of mine, followed by Wang Ming and 3 other thugs. However, each of them has a smile on their face, indicating that they have just experienced a chubby beating. I glanced at Yuan Ji, who was staring blankly, and then turned to Ma Bo. Bo Gu, your people are not kind. I don't care what I usually do, but now I've done everything about beating people with money. Even the little girl dares to beat them. If we turn around. Right, Xiaofan. You're right. These things are not something. I've already taught them a lesson. They all asked me to bring them over to apologize for you. Ma Bo kicked Wang Ming on the buttocks and knelt down in front of me with a thud, tears streaming down his face. Brother Fan, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. You know, the three of us. If it weren't for this beautiful woman giving us more money, we wouldn't have the courage. Yes, Van Gogh, the boss has already taught us a lesson. Look at what you gave me, one of my teeth is loose. The other person also knelt down with a bitter face. I waved my hand and said, all right, stop crying. Get up, let's just do it this time. Next time, I'll take you in for tea. Seeing that I didn't investigate, the three of them were greatly grateful, and Ma Bo also clasped his fists and arched his hand on the side. In fact, these few people are quite good. Although they are all small thugs, they are quite loyal. Most of the time, they just play around and don't bully the market. Moreover, because these people are here, our area is relatively peaceful and we haven't received much protection fees. Moreover, Ma Bo can be said to be a deity to me, showing special respect. As long as I speak up, he has nothing to refuse. Usually, if they have a calamity or disaster, I can help them settle it, so our relationship is quite good. Seeing that all three of them have been beaten up, I don't want to do things too badly. I handed tissues to the three people and looked at Ma Bo. Bo Gu, I don't think you have a good face. Are you feeling unwell? As soon as I spoke, Ma Bo was momentarily stunned. He stared at me for a while before finally realizing it. Brother, you're so amazing. Just now these three bastards went back and talked about this matter, which made me so angry. My head is still hurting, and I feel a bit nauseous. Ma Bo excitedly spoke incoherently, and I also smiled. Go to the hospital and have a look. You know, my medical skills are not good, and you are not a pathogenic disease. It should be due to the inversion of qi and blood. Ma Bo nodded repeatedly and hurriedly left with his three little brothers. I took a sip of tea and looked at Yuan Ji, who was stunned. So, do you believe me now? Yuan Ji nodded in amazement, but immediately shook her head again. This is too coincidental, isn't it? You shouldn't have made a secret phone call, did you? I shook my head and smiled bitterly, without much defense. Instead, I took out a new piece of paper and said, now I'm going to predict the second thing. This time, let me start. No, give me the pen, or I'll write it. I suspect you're lying to me. Yuan Ji remained expressionless, grabbed a pen and paper, applied it for a while, but was unsure what to write. I glanced at the clock and saw that there were still 40 minutes left. Auntie, if you continue to procrastinate like this, you will win today. You won't have a chance to enjoy the relationship between our master and disciple. Hey. With it, I know what to write now. Yuan Ji crumpled the white paper into a ball and threw it out. Then she started writing in her hand, watching him stroke by stroke. As she finished writing, my expression froze and I quickly stopped him. Auntie, are you writing the word enjoy? Can't you do it? Yuan Ji gave me a white glance. I wiped a cold sweat and said, okay, but if you write this word down, you'll be dead today. Humph, it's nonsense. If I write a word, I'll die. So why do you have to say that? Why does Prince Yen still need a life and death book? Yuan Ji spoke and added the last stroke. Seeing this, my expression instantly cooled down and I couldn't help but glance outside the door. Alas, what should come will eventually come, it seems that we cannot escape. Chapter 5. Master. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This translator is experiencing an error, please try another translator. Chapter 6. Clavicular Bodhisattva. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Since I have taken someone as my disciple, I need to do some serious work. In the morning, Yuan Ji's middle finger was congested and her black gas was swirling around her finger. Now that the congestion has dissipated, the disaster of blood and light should have been confirmed with that slap. The trouble now is that the black gas is swirling around her finger. As mentioned in the book, black chi around the finger is actually a faint black thread that wraps around the fingertips, belonging to a type of evil energy invading the body. But the question is, where did this guy get infected with evil energy? Master. Seeing my solemn expression and silence for a long time, Yuan Ji also became anxious, but she was afraid of disturbing me, so she timidly called out to me. Upon hearing this, I looked up at her and Yuan Ji timidly said, "Is my fate easy to crack? Can't I really die?" "It's not difficult, put your heart in the braised soup, and the master will handle it for you." I joked and breathed a sigh of relief in my heart. Because when Yuan Ji mentioned fate just now, her left eyebrow involuntarily trembled outward. According to the master, when a person encounters danger, their body will issue various warnings, so there are expressions such as facial and palmistry to judge danger and ward off evil spirits and disasters. And Yuan Ji's eyebrow trembling just now was a dangerous warning, because the man was afraid of not having to face, the woman was afraid of eyebrow trembling, the left eyebrow trembling outwards, there was a change in the family, the right eyebrow trembling outwards, and the couple did not end. I have found the problem, and I don't waste time either. I insist on going to Yuanji's house for a visit. Yuanji glanced outside and blushed slightly, saying, "Now. It's getting dark, and I haven't taken the opposite sex home yet." I glanced at him and said, "Don't worry, I'm just going to take a look. Besides, aren't your parents also at home?" "Ah!" Yuan Ji exclaimed in surprise, covering her small mouth. "Master, you're too amazing. You can tell whether my parents are at home or not." "Of course." I pretended to smile deeply. What's the difficulty of this? Just now, she herself said that Yuan Fusheng is her father, and as a famous entrepreneur in Songjiang County, every move of Yuan Fusheng has been reported by the media. Can I not know that going abroad to celebrate a wedding anniversary is such a big thing? Yuan Ji is truly a wealthy second generation, a two-story small villa with a single family and courtyard, and various fitness equipment in the courtyard. And according to Yuan Ji, this is just her own house. Usually, her parents don't live here, but in a self-built estate in the tourist area. Opening the villa gate, Yuan Ji poked her head and glanced inside, only to see that there was no one inside, so she called me in. I was a bit amused. "Why do you feel like a thief when you go home?" Yuan Ji smiled awkwardly and said, "Hee, my dad hired a nanny for me to take care of, but in fact, he's monitoring me, afraid I'll go out and hang out." I became interested and said, "Oh. So. Did you ever go out and haunt before? Where is it?" "Master, don't talk nonsense. I'm different from those wealthy second-generation people." Yuan Ji, with a stern face, pushed me into the room and said, "Oh, master, hurry up and take a look. The nanny asked me to pay for it, and I'll be back in an hour." I smiled and didn't speak, but my gaze fell on a statue of Bodhisattva in the living room. The statue of the Bodhisattva is over 1 meter tall, with a slightly hunched body, 7 parts like a woman and 3 parts like a man. It also holds a small, unisex person in its arms, covered in gold powder, and enshrined in a high shrine. Overall, it looks about the same height as a normal person. If you open the door and come in, the Bodhisattva's eyes will also be on the person who comes in. I squinted my eyes and saw a glimmer of spiritual energy flickering in the eyes of the Bodhisattva. Suddenly, there was a hint of arrogance and self-anger, as if he was driving me out. "Master, why are you looking at the Buddha statue? This thing has been in my house for many years." Yuan Ji pulled back my thoughts, but I ignored her and silently walked towards the statue. Picking up 3 incense sticks from the altar, lighting them and lifting them above his head, he knelt on a cattail and respectfully kowtowed 2½ heads. The master once said that we storytellers were made from folk artists and are considered to be half of the lower 9th class, so we cannot worship the gods completely and must pay less respect. Seeing me bowing to Bodhisattva, Yuan Ji also casually drew out 3 sticks of incense, but did not kneel respectfully like me. Instead, she clasped her hands together and held the incense, bowing a few times before inserting it in. I glanced at her and said, "Do you know what kind of bodhisattva this is?" Guanyin Bodhisattva, right. That's what my dad said, he gave it to me for safety. I shook my head and smiled, then walked to the side. Yuan Ji saw that my smile was meaningful and quickly caught up with me. Isn't it? Isn't it a bodhisattva? It's a bodhisattva, but not Guanyin Bodhisattva, but Clavicle Bodhisattva. The clavicle. Yuan Ji glanced at the shoulder of the bodhisattva statue, and I couldn't help but chuckle. It's not that collarbone, it's saying. Sigh, forget it, you don't understand even if I say it. I'll talk to you later. This statue has an extraordinary origin and has a spiritual connection between its eyes. It should have been illuminated by a master. Yuan Fusheng brought this thing to his home, probably to bless his daughter from encountering scumbags, because the main blessing of the clavicle bodhisattva is to cut off the lustful thoughts and sexual pleasure of believers. Moreover, the bodhisattva's gaze is fixed on the door to prevent the entry of licentious individuals. I wandered around the living room and several rooms, and I became even more surprised. The feng shui layout of this entire villa is simply impeccable. For the simplest example, when I close all the doors and windows and stand in the center of the living room, I can even feel a gentle breeze, and this is also the superior feng shui layout of hiding wind and gathering energy, with upward wind and upward water. Shu, Yuanji, which expert did you invite to decorate the layout of your house? What kind of expert? Yuan Ji followed me and casually asked. I looked around and said, your house is well decorated. Did you hire a feng shui expert? Hi, what kind of expert are you hiring? Yuan Ji grabbed an apple and took a bite, muttering in frustration, this house was set up by my mother. It's so tacky. I regretted even thinking about it now. If I had known earlier, I might as well have done it myself. I frowned and said, does your mother know feng shui? I don't understand. Yuan Ji answered sharply, shaking her head like a tambourine. My parents don't believe in evil the most. They are the standard older generation of materialists. I looked suspiciously at the statue not far away and said, do you believe in evil and still have a statue? Yuan Ji rolled her eyes and began to complain, that's because they bought it at the auction because it looked good, but when they bought it back, they found it unsightly, so they threw it at me. I'm a bit speechless. Is there anyone like this who is a father in this world? However, looking at the feng shui layout of this room, it is definitely someone who has been arranged by a master. I even have an impulse to meet this master. Hiding wind and gathering qi, Bodhisattva guarding the door, this person's feng shui skills are definitely not inferior to mine. Chapter 7. Tiger Tries Dragon. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Since I cannot determine who the expert is, I will no longer investigate, but focus on finding the reason for the evil energy on Yuan Ji's body. However, after a while of wandering, I couldn't find any clue. Yuan Ji was also anxious and urged me to hurry up, saying that the nanny would come back in a while. If I had to give a small report to his father, she would be in trouble. I have a headache. If I could find it, I would have found it long ago, but the feng shui of this villa is really impressive. It's impossible to breed evil energy. Looking at the layout of the house, I sucked my teeth on the flower seeds. Is it possible that I took a wrong look? Isn't that warning about Yuanji's family? Or rather, the evil energy came later. My eyes lit up and I said, Yuanji, have you been to any places recently, or have you brought anything home? Yuan Ji lowered her head for a moment and shook her head in confusion. It seems like I haven't been anywhere, have I? I've been preparing for the EP1-10 exam lately and haven't. As we were talking, the door to the living room suddenly opened, and the nanny saw me with an instant expression of vigilance. "Miss, he is. Auntie, let me introduce you." Yuan Ji quickly took the lead and said, "He, this is the feng shui master I invited. Zhang Yufan, also known as Master Zhang. The nanny is in her 50s, with 2 towering cheekbones that look somewhat kind, but she gives me a cold snort and frowns at me. Miss, don't pay anyone who doesn't know what to do. This master, that master, there are so many people claiming to be feng shui masters these days, just him. Humph, it looks like he's about the same age as you. Do you understand anything?" Auntie, you can't say that, master. Van Gogh is really amazing." Yuan Ji seemed very afraid of the nanny and walked over with a smile on her face. She coquettishly took the nanny's hand and said, "Auntie, Van Gogh is really amazing." He looked at my hand and knew I had a bloody disaster. Later, he made a bet with me. He said someone was beaten, and he said someone. Mississippi. "Sir, how many times have you said that feudal superstition cannot be trusted? Why do you still bet with people? Besides, a child who is a little older knows a lot about it." "Oh, auntie." Without waiting for Yuan Ji to speak, the nanny pulled her behind her to protect her, and then raised her eyebrows to look at me. "You little brat, you've tricked people into coming to our house. Humph, aren't you claiming to be a master? If you're really that good, come on, take a look at what's happening to me lately. If you're right, I'll call you good." I rubbed my nose and almost couldn't help but laugh out loud. This auntie's face is as clear as ever, it's like sending a score question. I extended 3 fingers and said, "Auntie, I only said 3 things. If there's one thing that's not right, you can take me out." "You think so? I'll call the police and catch you." Auntie looked at me with her waist crossed, as if she was waiting to hit me in the face. I shook my head and smiled bitterly. The nose is like a dragon, and the cheekbones are like tigers. If the cheekbones are higher than the nose, it's like a tiger deceiving a dragon. If a woman is like a tiger deceiving a dragon, her husband's family will be 3 years old. Teacher. Brother Fan, interrupt me. Yuan Ji glanced at Aunt and timidly said, Aunt doesn't understand. You should speak in plain Chinese instead. I smiled and said, simply put, Auntie, your man passed away due to illness in the 3rd year after you got married, and the child was brought up by you alone. This is the first thing. As soon as I spoke, my aunt stiffened and looked at me in surprise. She opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something. However, I did not give him this opportunity. The second thing is, Auntie, you have a black mole on the tip of your nose, which is the Jianjing dragon. Jianjing dragon can affect your son, so it's difficult for you to raise a long-lived son, and your daughter's fate is not high. To put it bluntly, your son died young and only one daughter raised him, but unfortunately, you and your daughter are enemies of each other. This relationship. Haha. Bang. I took off a long note, and the basket in my aunt's hand quietly slipped away, leaving me frozen in place. Seeing my aunt's performance, I lit a cigarette with satisfaction and took a beautiful puff before continuing. The third thing is, Auntie, your eyebrows and eyes are divided on both sides, with different thicknesses. This is the intention of our ancestors. Combined with your above facial features, it means that your relationship with your daughter will only ease after you leave your hometown. Based on your current appearance, Auntie, your relationship with your daughter seems to be better, right? Oh my God. What a god. Auntie was completely impressed by me. She didn't care about the dishes on the ground and walked straight towards me, grabbing my hand. Child. No, it's a master. You're a real master. You're right, I've been a nanny in Songjie County since I was born, and my daughter is only kind to me. Now she calls me every now and then, you're really amazing. Oh, it's average, but that's all. I reluctantly agreed humbly, but my aunt held onto my hand and couldn't let go. Tears welled up in her eyes as she exclaimed, "Master. You are truly a master, how can I decipher my face? I only have one daughter left now, and I want to further my relationship with her. This is simple." I fully agreed, but rubbed 2 fingers, and the aunt immediately reacted and found several tens of yuan on her body. Oh. This is the money for groceries. Master, please wait, I'll go back to my room and get some more. Watching Auntie go to get the money in a lively manner, Yuan Ji also leaned over with a look of admiration and gave me 2 thumbs up. Master, you're really amazing. Auntie doesn't believe anything, you actually took care of her. I patted my lips, feeling a bit proud. It's okay, mainly because I haven't seen your dad yet, otherwise even he would have taken care of it together. Cut. Yuan Ji couldn't help but roll her eyes at me as she saw me blowing harder and harder. After waiting for a while, Auntie also ran back and took 100 yuan bills. She forcefully stuffed them into my pocket and said that she only had a small amount of cash on her body, urging me not to take it lightly and to save her. I smiled and refunded the money, leaving only 3. I have my own rules. When it comes to judging appearances, asking hexagrams, and annotating 8 characters, I pay 100 yuan each time. If I need to crack them, I pay an additional 200 yuan. The required materials are prepared by them themselves. Of course, this is only for ordinary people. If you come across someone with money, it's hard to say. After teaching my aunt the method of cracking, I no longer wasted time, but continued to study the source of evil energy on Yuan Ji. However, after repeated questioning, Yuan Ji still couldn't recall anything suspicious, but Aunt seemed to have thought of something. Auntie looked at me and said thoughtfully, "Master, you said I've been sleeping lately and always hear people talking. Is this a strange thing?" My eyes lit up and I nodded repeatedly, "Oh no. This is too much. Let's talk about it. When did it start? What are the other symptoms?" Chapter 8. Bone Hairpin Evil Immortal. You are listening at novelfull.audio. According to the aunt, half a month ago, Yuan Ji's classmates came once, and since then, she has been able to hear people talking every night, and the room still comes from Yuan Ji's bedroom. At first, the aunt thought that Yuan Ji had brought someone back, so she secretly opened the door in the middle of the night and went to Yuan Ji's bedroom to see her several times, but there was no one. Over time, the aunt suspected that she had hallucinations and went to the hospital for a check-up. As a result, the doctor said that Auntie was fatigued, so he prescribed some sedatives for him. After returning, taking the medication did indeed work, and the quality of sleep improved compared to before. After sleeping until dawn, the voice of the speaker disappeared. After Auntie finished speaking, Yuan Ji also thought for a moment and said, "It seems. I've heard it before." That day, I forgot to bring my earplugs before going to bed, and I felt like someone was talking in my ear. I thought I was sleeping soundly, but when I got up and put on my earplugs, there was no movement, and I didn't pay much attention afterwards. Shoo. I seem to have found the key to the problem. Yuan Ji, did your classmate give you anything? Or did he leave anything behind? It's really a hairpin. Yuan Ji ran upstairs. Master, please wait a moment. I'll go upstairs and get it for you, right inside my dressing table. Master. Auntie frowned and looked at me. I chuckled and said, "No, Auntie, you heard me wrong. He was talking about Van Gogh." Auntie smiled but didn't delve into it, while I kept asking, "Auntie, do you remember what that voice was saying?" Well, I need to think about it carefully. I've been taking medicine these past few days and don't listen much. I've forgotten a bit. I nodded and sat on the sofa, grabbing a banana to eat. Auntie sat down across from me and muttered to herself, "I forgot. I remember it seemed like 2 people were talking, what kind of Buddha, what kind of immortal, and they said they wouldn't let anyone pass the level. Is there a Buddha? Is there a immortal? Are you still not allowed to pass the level? I swallowed the banana in my mouth and hurriedly said, isn't it the southern Buddha, the northern immortal, and the Huang who can only pass the Shanhaiguan? Is that right? Auntie shook her head in confusion, I can't remember clearly. Anyway, it was these words at the beginning, and then those two people started arguing. One of them said something about the territory to the other person, and then asked someone to leave, that person. Here it is, Brother Fan, look at this hairpin. Yuan Ji hurriedly ran down and handed me a hairpin. I looked at it and saw that the hairpin was the size of a chopstick, with a snow-white and transparent body. The material was like jade, and when it collided with a glass coffee table, it could still make a crisp sound like jade. At the top of the hairpin, there is a slightly carved white fox sleeping on a dead wood, with its eyes adorned with fine cinnabar. Under the light, the white fox's eyes also looked very eerie. But what made me most uncomfortable was the expression on the fox's face, with the corners of his lips moving back and a hint of a sinister smile. Yuan-ji, who is that classmate of yours? Why did he give you a hairpin? Why is this still useful? We have a good relationship. Yuan-ji didn't know why, and even boasted about having a good friend. Qin Xia said she asked for it through connections in the temple. It's 80,000 yuan per piece just to ensure that I pass level 4. Pa. As soon as Yuan-ji finished speaking, I slammed my hairpin onto the coffee table. The hairpin snapped in response, and the room became quiet. After being stunned for 3 seconds, Yuan-ji exclaimed, "Oh my god, this is Hotan Jades. The Taoist monk has been driving all the way. Why did you fall for me? 88,000 yuan. I bought it in the temple." I picked up the broken hairpin and glanced at it. Oh, now the temple sells human bones. Damn it. 88,000 yuan. I threw the hairpin to Yuan-ji, and she was also stunned as she looked at the fault of the hairpin. The densely packed honeycomb eyes, not even fools know, this must be because the bones haven't run away. As soon as she remembered the human bones I mentioned, Yuan-ji was shocked as if she had been electrocuted and threw them out with a scream. What's going on here? How could this be a human bone? The aunt also asked in a daze. I sighed and said, in ancient times, there was a kind of magic that broke the calf bones of a woman who had died in vain, kept polishing and processing them repeatedly, and finally soaked them in medicine. The appearance would turn into jade and stone. If you want to harm someone, put this leg bone next to them, and they will be entangled in evil energy. Within 40.9 days, this person will die of illness. After a person dies, their leg bones will also turn into a pile of stone powder, and even the most skilled person can't find any problems. This is impossible. My relationship with Qingxia is the best, she can't harm me. Yuan-ji shook her head and immediately denied. I sneered and said, it's impossible to harm you. Do you think temples would sell such evil things? And why would she lie? I showed the fox carved end to Yuan-ji and said, you see clearly, this is the white fox. In northeast China, the white fox is auspicious, second only to the third prince Hu. But after using cinnabar to dot his eyes, this is evil. In northeast China, he is also known as an evil immortal. Carving this kind of thing on top of it is to invite the evil immortal into the door. If it weren't for a collarbone Bodhisattva guarding your house, you wouldn't know how many times he died back and forth. Yuan-ji looked at the hairpin in disbelief, shook her head and muttered to herself, it's impossible. Qingxia is my best friend, and his father is still my father's partner. How could he possibly harm me? There must be some misunderstanding. Don't think about it, there's no misunderstanding. I gave her a bad glare, why is this child so stubborn? I ask you, when Qingxia gave you a hairpin, did she first hand you the fox's hands, and then she asked you to pick it up with both hands? Yuan lowered her head for a moment, then nodded silently. I continued, did the fox bite you at that time? No, it should be said that at the moment she handed you the hairpin, did you hurt your finger for no reason? That's right, that's right. Yuan nodded repeatedly. I didn't know how to do it at that time. It seemed like I had been pricked with a needle on my finger and there was a little blood. If Qingxia hadn't reacted quickly at that time, I would have broken this hairpin. I snorted in my nose and said, what do you suspect? It's this Qingxia who's harming you, because I've heard of this before. When she gave you a hairpin, her series of actions were a process of inviting immortals, and at that time, she brought evil energy into your body. Obviously, she knows what this thing is for. Yuan couldn't help but loosen her trust in her best friend when she saw me so confident, and she lowered her head, not knowing what she was thinking. I saw it was getting late and it was getting dark outside, so I remembered to bid farewell, but my aunt insisted on keeping me for a meal before leaving. I am also lazy. When I saw that I could grab a meal, I was too lazy to go home and cook for myself. So I agreed. While Yuan was thinking about something, Auntie was cooking, and I went to pay my respects in front of the Bodhisattva, offering 3 incense sticks. Now I finally understand what Auntie heard before, it must be that this Bodhisattva and the evil immortal are negotiating about territory. As the saying goes, the southern Buddha, the northern immortal, and the Huang cannot surpass the Shanhaiguan. It's a pity, this is in the north, even if the Buddha comes, he can't handle the affairs here. Chapter 9. Huang goes beyond Shanhaiguan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After dinner, I was planning to take a taxi back by myself, but Yuan insisted on driving me back. On the way, I saw Yuan driving in a sullen and absent-minded manner. I also lit a cigarette and jokingly said, my dear disciple, why don't I come forward and help you handle this matter? Yuan pondered for a moment before shaking her head. Forget it, Qingxia is my best friend. Let me ask myself. By the way, Master, what do you mean by Southern Buddha and Northern Immortal? I smiled, and it was obvious that the girl was intentionally digressing the topic. Since that's the case, I won't ask further questions, but instead tell a story to Yuan. In fact, the saying, Southern Buddha, Northern Immortal, Huang, but not Shanhaiguan, originated from the Qin dynasty. According to legend, the horse immortals initially had no status in northeast China, and were even excluded by the Buddhist and Taoist families, treating them as fairies. So, as the head of the horse immortal family, Grandpa Husen went to seek the title of Emperor Qianlong, because the emperor can represent the will of heaven. If he can receive the emperor's golden words in jade, he can obtain a formal title. Unexpectedly, Emperor Qianlong drank too much that day and ignored this matter in his dream. After waiting for a while, he went to the Mengdi enclosure to hunt and saw a beautiful woman being chased by a black bear. Emperor Qianlong was eager to save the beauty, so he bent his bow and drew an arrow, and shot it with one shot. However, the arrow missed the mark and didn't kill the black bear. It even killed the beautiful woman with one arrow. Saving the beauty does not lead to murder, and Emperor Qianlong had no face, so he ordered someone to secretly bury the beautiful woman. After waiting for a few days, Emperor Qianlong was preparing to drive back to Beijing. As he passed by their mother river, the Yitong River, which was full of people, it suddenly rained heavily and a strong wind blocked the way. The originally early autumn weather seemed like a cold winter. The rain hitting me feels like knives, piercing with pain. At this moment, an old man appeared in front of Emperor Qianlong's carriage, saying that there was a dragon crossing the Yitong River, which caused chaos. He knew that Emperor Qianlong was here and specially came to offer a fox skin cloak, which could prevent water and fire from invading. After Emperor Qianlong put it on, it was indeed comfortable and warm, and his mood improved. He wanted to reward the old man. But the old man said that he was originally a local fox immortal and a disciple of the Husen Grand Prince. The woman that Emperor Qianlong had just shot was his daughter, and this clothing was also her daughter's fur. The old man cried while speaking, and Qianlong felt guilty. He asked the old man what reward he wanted. The old man naturally wanted to compete for a place as a horse immortal for them, so he took the land in northeast China. Emperor Qianlong readily agreed and immediately granted northeast China as a fiefdom, rewarding the horse immortal for 500 years. He also promised that the southern Buddha, northern immortal, and Huang would not surpass the Shanhaiguan pass. The emperor's words of gold and jade have been passed down, and from then on, this unwritten rule has been passed down. And this is also why a small evil immortal dares to argue with the clavicular Bodhisattva, that is because in this north, what their Buddhists and the horse immortals say does not count, the real local snake is the Taoist. After I finished telling the story, Yuanji also took me to the outside of the alley, but Yuanji didn't rush back. Instead, she accompanied me back to the store and said she wanted to have a cup of tea with me and listen to my story. I can tell that she has something on her mind to tell me, but she didn't think how to speak up. So I didn't point it out either. I cooked a pot of tea on my own and chatted aimlessly with Yuanji. As it was getting late, the nanny called to urge her. Yuanji couldn't help but timidly ask, "Master, have you ever been able to calculate accurately?" Should there be one? I smiled with some emotion. Since I debuted, I've only had one inaccurate divination and almost smashed the sign of our yin-yang studio. But, sigh, forget it, let's not say it, it was all a long time ago. So. Yuanji opened her mouth, but when the words reached her mouth, she swallowed them back. I glanced at my phone and it was already past 9 o'clock. I couldn't help but sigh and say, "Oh, do you want to ask, are you an adopted son? Is it true or false?" Yuanji's body stiffened slightly, she looked up at me, hesitated for a moment, and then nodded lightly. I smiled and said, "There's no need to doubt it." I definitely didn't take this matter seriously. Yuanji saw that I was so confident in what I said, and nervously rubbed the corners of her clothes. Then, Master, can you see who my biological parents are?" I shook my head and said, "Well, it's difficult. Unless I see your biological father with my own eyes and compare your two faces, no one can infer from thin air." Yuanji's face showed disappointment, and she sighed before getting up to say goodbye. Watching Yuanji go out, I suddenly remembered something. "Yuanji, your parents don't believe in evil, so why do you believe in these things?" Yuanji was slightly taken aback and stopped in her tracks, saying softly, "If I say that a few years ago, I could see things that others couldn't see, do you believe me, Master?" "Believe it? I believe it too much. When I was a child, didn't I just see dirty things, which led to my family being separated and ultimately leading me down this path? But a few years ago. These are all adults, can you still see them?" Yuanji hesitated and felt a little helpless when she saw my face. "Ah, I really didn't lie to you. Since I was young, others have treated me like a monster, even my parents don't believe me. However, I can really see it, and I can also see a stick of incense burning on everyone's head. As long as I look at the length of the incense, I can know how long this person can live." I was secretly surprised. There was a record of this in Liaozhai. In ancient times, there was a person who could see a stick of incense on each person's head and judge their lifespan based on how much incense was burned. When my master was alive, I also mentioned to him that this kind of person is a natural spiritual eye that can perceive all the mysteries of the world. However, this kind of person is rare compared to my 7 kills destiny, and it takes hundreds of years for one to appear. "Are you sure you can see the fragrance on the head?" I asked hesitantly. Yuanji nodded helplessly and said, "I can really see it, but since I moved to my new home, I can't see it anymore, and I can't see those dirty things either." "New home?" I frowned, "Is it your current villa?" Yuanji nodded again, but the nanny's call came back again. Yuanji and I waved and hurriedly left. I took a sip of tea and smiled. Is this interesting? I didn't expect this girl to have a pair of spiritual eyes. Is it difficult? The reason why my master asked me to keep Huang by my side is because she is a spiritual eye. And there's also this girl's villa, which is obviously a master layout, with excellent feng shui and a gathering of spiritual energy. Not only can it provide her with spiritual eyes, but the collarbone Bodhisattva can also make her look like a normal person. I licked my lips excitedly, and now I wish I could see that expert right away. His expertise in feng shui is really impressive. Never under me. Chapter 10. Sheep Chariot Looking for Luck. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, when I woke up, there was an old and worn-out pillow on the counter. This is the business of the yin-yang studio. In the world of the living, the deceased are not allowed to enter or come into contact with the living. So, if they have any unfulfilled wishes, they will put them on the counter in the middle of the night and include a note clearly stating what they are asking for. This way, I will do my best to help them complete it, and after the task is completed, the things will belong to me as compensation. However, without a note, it is necessary for relatives in the mortal world to come and retrieve it. They will also dream to tell their relatives, and similarly, they will give me some money, which can be considered as my hard work in connecting the yin and yang realms. I flipped through it and saw that there was no note. It should belong to the second type, so I didn't bother much and went to wash and eat. After I finished my meal, I called Huang again to ask if she had gone to her best friend to inquire, but she refused. I was a bit bored, so I set up a divination stall. This was the rule set by my master. No matter whether someone came or not, I had to wait here every day, unless I went out for a performance and wasn't in the store. However, today seems a bit deserted. It's almost noon and no one has come. I glanced at the empty alley entrance and felt a bit lonely in my heart. The old man who sells braised pork did not open a stall today. It seems that my divination yesterday came true. The old man has already gone. I sucked my teeth on Huazi, feeling both bored and empty. After all, we've known each other for almost 10 years, and now that he's gone, there won't be anyone who cares about me anymore. When I had nothing to do, I called my friends in the Tsui group and started chatting with them. Since the rapid development of technology in recent years, we traditional folk artists have also almost withdrawn from the stage, and the opportunities for performances are becoming increasingly scarce. Those who have money go to big theaters to watch celebrities, while those who don't have money look at their phones. Even those of us who are not in the mainstream can only perform in the countryside. If we start in the county, we may not even be able to gather 20 people. However, in recent years, the opportunities to go to the countryside have become increasingly rare. I chatted with the seniors in the group for a while, and I also managed to get through the morning time. When it was almost noon, someone finally came to pick up the pillow. The person who came here is a middle-aged uncle. According to him, this pillow was his mother's favorite before she passed away. She stayed with her every day and couldn't sleep without this pillow. After his mother's sudden illness and death, this pillow was also buried with her. And just last night, his mother suddenly daydreamed that the reason she liked this pillow was because there was a passbook inside it, which she and her husband had saved earlier. She had planned to explain it to her on her deathbed, but she didn't expect to die of an emergency and was unwilling to let the money go to the bank for nothing, so she came up to tell her. The uncle was skeptical and came over according to the address given by his mother. I gave the pillow to my uncle, and he also left me 1,000 yuan according to the rules. After uncle left, I went to have lunch, and when I finished eating and came back, Yuan didn't know when she came. She was sitting on my divination stall, playing with my few copper coins. "Master, why don't you lock the door when you go out? What if a thief comes?" said Yuan with a hint of resentment as she watched me come back. I smiled and said, "As a teacher, I have nothing and my sleeves are clean. What's good about locking the door?" Yuan pouted and didn't speak anymore, just playing with the copper coins with her head down. I saw her feeling unhappy and laughed. Have you gone to see your friend? Well, I've looked for it. Yuanji pouted. Humph, she has friends there, and I'm too embarrassed to ask. They even dragged her to play all morning. Oh. It's just that simple. I squinted my eyes. How do I see that you have a rosy complexion and a hint of peach blossom approaching? Did she give you something else? She. Master, you're so amazing. Yuanji widened her eyes and looked at me, taking out a pendant from her pocket. Well, just as I said the hairpin was broken, she gave me a piece of green jade and even said it's from Nanyang. Master Kaiguang can still ensure that I pass level 4. I took it over and looked at the broken horn sheep above, and couldn't help but laugh. My dear disciple, you are such a good friend. You are really killing me with one mind. What does it mean? I smiled and said, have you ever heard of the story of the sheep cart hoping for luck? Yuanji nodded and said, I've heard that there was an emperor in the Jin dynasty named Sima Yan. Because there were too many concubines, she didn't know which one was better to be favored, so she drove a sheep cart through the palace. Wherever the sheep cart stopped, she would be favored by the concubine. Later, someone found out that sheep liked to eat salt, so they sprinkled salt water in front of their own palace. The sheep cart stopped, and she also received Sima Yan's favor. Afterwards, there was an allusion to the sheep cart hoping for luck, representing waiting for others' favor. I nodded in approval and said, not bad, but do you know why Sima Yan wanted to drive sheep carts instead of ox carts or carriages? Yuanji shook her head in confusion, and I smiled and said, that's because in the field of physiognomy, Qingyang can attract marriage. People in ancient times have worn Qingyang, and there are also rumors about Qingyang searching for her husband and wife to seek marriage. Yuanji suddenly realized, Master, are you saying that Qingxia gave me this thing to seek marriage? Yes, but not really. I pointed to one of Qingyang's broken horns. Qingyang's broken horns lead to rampant marriage, commonly known as rotten peach blossoms. In ancient times, it was also a harmful trick used to tarnish others' reputation. Usually, the most disadvantaged person is you girls. Yuanji was slightly taken aback. Why did she want to tarnish my reputation? You're thinking too simply. If only it were that simple. Before Yuanji could finish speaking, I gave her a cold eye and said, don't forget, there is also a collarbone Bodhisattva in your family. The main function of a collarbone Bodhisattva is to make people cut off their desires and permanently eliminate lustful thoughts. If you bring this green sheep back, it will attract rotten peach blossoms, and the Bodhisattva will cut off your desires. Under such a collision, what you will want then is your life. Ah! Yuanji was frightened and covered her small mouth with both hands. So, what should I do? Why don't I go find her? While speaking, Yuanji stood up and was about to leave, but I stopped her. Don't go, as soon as the bone hairpin is broken, they have prepared Qingyang to deal with you. This indicates that Qingxia knows you like the back of his hand. If you go, it will be in vain. If you tear your face, there may be danger. I can't let her harm me either. I treat her the best in my daily life. I tell her everything and there's no secret between us. Yuanji spoke indignantly, perhaps her feelings for Qingxia were not ordinary. Now that she has been framed by her best friend, she also feels a bit cold. Seeing her so excited, I smiled and waved my hand. Forget it, calm down. This thing will stay with me for now. When you have time another day, you can take me over and I will meet you in person for a while. Don't change the day, it's better to choose a day than to collide with it. Today is the day. Yuanji seemed to have been heartbroken by Qingxia. When she saw that I was going to personally take action, she didn't even want to wait for a minute and pulled me towards the alley entrance. What else did you say about saving Qingxia's life before, making the fragrance on his head look like a normal person? Qingxia knows this, but now she wants to harm herself.